I let my homeless sister stay in my downtown loft. She cried about needing a fresh start. 3 weeks later, my boss pulled me aside and said, "Your sister's been telling everyone you're letting her take over your lease." I had to act fast. "Wait." She said, "What?" I asked, barely able to keep my voice steady. My boss, Deanna, looked uncomfortable. "She told the front desk staff, and a few people in the lobby, that you were moving out. And that she was taking over your lease." "Ray, is that true?" That was the moment my stomach dropped. It still makes my skin crawl thinking about it. The weeks leading up to that conversation had already felt off, like the energy in my home had shifted, like I was slowly becoming a guest in my own life. But that moment? That was the alarm bell. It was the final jolt that made me realize something was deeply wrong. And it all started with a phone call. "My name's Rayanne. I'm 42, live in Chicago, and work as a senior consultant for a mid-sized architecture firm. I've lived alone since my divorce 5 years ago and have really come to love my space and solitude. I rent a small but modern loft in River North, close enough to the office that I can walk most days. It's not fancy, but it's mine, open space, tall windows, a small balcony where I drink coffee every morning. Peaceful. Then, 3 months ago, I got a call from my younger sister, Fallon. She and I haven't been especially close in adulthood. As kids, we fought a lot. She always accused me of being the favorite, while I saw her as impulsive and selfish. As adults, we drifted, exchanging occasional birthday texts and strained holiday visits. But she was still my sister. So when she called crying, saying her boyfriend had kicked her out and she was bouncing between a friend's couch and a women's shelter in St. Paul, I didn't hesitate. She said she wanted a fresh start, that she had nowhere else to go. Her voice shook. I remember her saying, "I don't need a handout. Just a little time. Just somewhere safe so I can breathe." I let her come. She took a Greyhound to Chicago and showed up with 2 bags and a lot of emotional baggage. I cleared off my pull-out couch and told her the rules: keep things clean, be respectful, and actively job hunt. At first, I told myself it was fine. Sure, she slept late. And left dishes in the sink. And somehow drank every ounce of oat milk without replacing it. But I told myself she was adjusting. Healing. Starting over. But within days, my home stopped feeling like my own. She spread out. Took over the bathroom counter with her makeup and skincare. Started leaving laundry in the washer for days. Played her music while I was trying to work remotely. And when I'd say something gently, "Hey, can you put your clothes away?" she'd sigh and accuse me of treating her like a burden. Still, I tried to be patient. I even drove her to a few job interviews and printed out her resume at work. But the truth is, she wasn't trying. She slept until noon. Scrolled on her phone for hours. Talked about starting a YouTube channel. One time she said, "Maybe I'll get into astrology readings or start coaching women," something soulful. I asked if she was applying to jobs. She shrugged. Around that time, I noticed the energy at work shift too. My coworkers started acting weird, more reserved, whispery. I couldn't figure out why, until the day Deanna pulled me aside and dropped that explosive: "Fallon was telling people she was taking over my lease." At first, I laughed, thinking maybe it was a misunderstanding. "Fallon wouldn't do that," I said. "She knows she's only here temporarily." But the next morning, I got an email from the leasing office asking if I was planning to vacate by the end of the month. Apparently, Fallon had spoken to them directly. Told them I was relocating and she'd be assuming the lease. She even gave them her full name. I felt sick. When I got home that night, I asked her about it directly. "You told the building you're taking over my apartment?" I asked, trying to keep calm. She didn't deny it. She just tilted her head and said, "Well, I assumed. I mean, you're miserable here. You always say the jobs slaughter you and you want to live closer to nature or whatever. This place doesn't match your vibe anymore." I was stunned. That doesn't mean I'm handing you my apartment. She rolled her eyes. You don't need to be so controlling, Ray. That was the beginning of the unraveling. Fallon stopped pretending to look for work. She started inviting over friends, people I didn't know, from trauma support groups or spiritual workshops. They'd come in and light incense and sit cross-legged on my rug. One afternoon I came home early and found two strangers in my kitchen using my blender like they lived there. I'd had enough. I told her she had 1 week to find somewhere else to stay. I even offered to help with a deposit for a room on Craigslist. That's when she dropped the line that changed everything. Legally, I've been here over 2 weeks. That makes me a tenant. I froze. I googled it later. She was right. In Illinois, even without a formal lease or rent payments, if someone lives in a place for 14 consecutive days, they're considered a tenant at will. Evicting them requires written notice and often a court process. I couldn't believe it. I'd invited her out of compassion. And now she was using tenancy laws against me. But she didn't stop there. She started locking the front door when I was at work and ignoring my calls. Changed the code on the front door keypad. Yes, I'd made the mistake of giving it to her. Told building staff that she was house-sitting for her unstable sister who was going through something. And then, she went online. She made Facebook posts about being emotionally tormented by a toxic sibling. Said she'd escaped one narcissist in her ex, only to live with another. People commented with support. Some even shared my name. I was mortified. At work, people started avoiding me. I could feel the tension. Deanna sat me down again and asked, "Is everything okay at home? Do you need time off?" It was humiliating. And Fallon? She was thriving in the chaos. She started rearranging my furniture, redecorating like it was her place. I found mood boards in her journal titled Fallon's New Loft. One of them literally had my framed balcony view taped into the center like a vision board. She was planning to take over my life. I knew I had to act, and quickly. I started documenting everything. Texts, voicemails, screenshots of her Facebook posts, every little thing that could prove what she was doing and how she was misrepresenting her role in the apartment. I even started taking photos of the apartment every day, just to track the changes she made. It felt surreal. Like I was building a case against my own sister. But I had to. I could feel her trying to erase me, piece by piece, from my own home. I stayed out one night to clear my head, just went for a walk, grabbed dinner, and sat by the lake for hours. When I got back to the building, the concierge told me Fallon had told them I was moving out by the weekend and that she'd be handling all apartment-related communication going forward. She hadn't just told a few people. I realized then she was systematically positioning herself as the tenant, the owner of the space. It was more than a delusion. It was calculated. I confronted her again the next morning. Tried to keep it calm. I asked, "What are you doing, Fallon? Why are you telling people this is your place?" She was making toast in my kitchen, her hair up, wearing one of my old sweatshirts like it belonged to her. She didn't even look at me. "I'm not telling them anything that isn't true," she said flatly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "It isn't true. This is my lease. My job pays for this apartment. You don't pay anything." She finally turned and gave me that look, the one she used to give Mom when she was caught stealing from her purse. A mix of false innocence and smug defiance. "Ray," she said, "you said you were unhappy here. You're overworked. You've been stuck since the divorce. Maybe the universe is just moving you in a new direction." It was like talking to someone who'd created a complete alternate reality. I didn't argue. Arguing wouldn't do anything. I just nodded and told her I needed to be alone. I grabbed my coat, went down to the Starbucks on Clark Street, and called my landlord from there. I told him everything. It was uncomfortable, embarrassing, even. I had to admit I'd let someone stay without telling him, and now she was trying to take over. Luckily, my landlord was an old-school guy, Mr. Lerner, who liked me and knew I was a responsible tenant. He wasn't thrilled, but he didn't yell. He just said, "We'll handle it properly. But you need to be patient." That same day, I called a lawyer. I explained the situation. He sighed and said, "You're not the first person this has happened to, and you won't be the last. But if she's been there more than 2 weeks and has established residency, you can't just kick her out." He helped me draft a formal notice to vacate, which I had to print, sign, and leave on the fridge for Fallon to find. That was the first step in the formal eviction process. I thought things were tense before, that week was worse. Fallon barely spoke to me. She started acting like I was the guest. She'd spread her stuff all over the common areas, played loud spiritual music in the mornings, and began leaving passive-aggressive notes around the apartment. I'd find sticky notes on the mirror that said things like "respect goes both ways" and "healing means letting go." I kept my head down, stayed at work later than usual, and tried to sleep at a friend's place in Lincoln Park a couple nights a week. It was exhausting. Then I discovered she was trying to sublet my apartment. One of my coworkers, Marlene, who's always lurking on Facebook Marketplace, sent me a listing with photos of my loft. The title said "Chic River North Loft Available ASAP, Perfect Energy for Women Entrepreneurs." There was Fallon in one of the pictures, sitting on my couch, smiling like she owned the place. I almost threw my phone across the room. I sent the link to my landlord immediately. He was livid. Called the leasing office and had them flag the unit for fraudulent listings. He even called Fallon directly and told her if she didn't take the listing down, he'd pursue legal action. She played dumb, of course. Oh. I didn't realize it violated anything. I was just helping out a friend looking for a place. He wasn't buying it anymore. He filed a formal complaint and backed my eviction process with full documentation. That night, I came home, and the apartment was a disaster. My rugs had been pulled up. My bookshelf was half emptied. A crystal chandelier I'd installed myself was sitting on the floor, broken. And there was another note on the mirror: "You're losing everything because you won't let go. This place was never yours. It was a stop on your path. Let it go." I sat on my bed, shaking. Not crying, just numb. How could someone twist reality this way? How could she look me in the eye every day and keep pretending this was hers? The worst part? A tiny part of me still wanted to believe she didn't mean to be cruel. Maybe she was sick. Or broken in some way. Maybe this was still some kind of cry for help gone wrong. But that part of me was getting smaller every day. I went no contact. I stopped talking to her, stopped acknowledging her. I slept with my bedroom door locked. The day the court served her with the official eviction notice, I didn't even tell her. She found out when she tried to go to the leasing office and saw her name posted on the no-access list. I don't know what she told herself after that. But the silence in the apartment grew heavier and heavier. I could feel the hate radiating off of her, like a storm cloud on the other side of the loft wall. And then, one afternoon while I was at work, I got a call from the building. Fallon had been seen screaming at the front desk staff. They had refused to let her into the main office. She'd said something about me sabotaging her life and was threatening to call the press. That was it. My landlord pushed to escalate. I spoke with my attorney again and filed a police report for hampered and unauthorized access. Within a week, the court granted a temporary restraining order. But Fallon didn't leave quietly. The day she left, or rather, the day she was forced to leave, started off eerily quiet. Too quiet. It had been a week since the restraining order was granted, and Fallon had been mostly staying out of the apartment, likely couch hopping with one of her new spiritual healer friends, judging by the barrage of essential oil bottles and herbal teas that had mysteriously appeared in my kitchen. I was running on fumes. Every morning felt like survival. Get out of the apartment without incident. Avoid her. Avoid any conversation that could trigger another confrontation or accusation. Every evening, I'd come home half expecting to find something missing, or broken, or rearranged. On a Thursday morning, I got a call from the building's legal liaison. The notice had been processed, and law enforcement would be assisting in the removal that afternoon. They'd already coordinated with my landlord. All I had to do was stay away and wait for confirmation. I didn't go to work that day. I sat in the park near Millennium Station with a hot tea that I didn't even drink, scrolling through my phone, trying to feel normal. I didn't. I just felt suspended, like I was watching my life from outside of it. I kept refreshing my email, waiting for the subject line that would say she was out. Around 2:10 p.m., I got a call from the building manager. "She's gone," he said simply. "Police helped her father with her belongings and left. She wasn't cooperative, but it didn't escalate. Your keys and access have been reset. You're good to return." I nodded, barely saying a word. Then I just sat there for 10 minutes, staring at the sidewalk. I didn't cry. I didn't feel relieved. Not yet. When I finally got back to the apartment, the moment the elevator doors opened, I knew something was wrong. There was this sour, burnt chemical smell hanging in the hallway. Not strong enough to be dangerous, but just enough to make your stomach turn. I unlocked the door with the new code they'd given me and stepped inside. The loft looked like it had been through a low-level hurricane. Bookshelves tipped over. All the framed prints I'd collected over the years, architectural sketches, a few black and white street photos of Paris, were off the walls, some torn. My potted fiddle leaf fig, the one I'd raised from a sapling for 6 years, was dumped over, dirt scattered like a crime scene. The couch cushions had been slit open with what looked like scissors. There was glitter, of all things, scattered everywhere. I later found out she'd been doing some kind of manifestation ritual in the days leading up to the eviction. The worst was the bathroom. The mirror had been scrawled over in red lipstick. A jagged message, smeared and angry: "You'll never be free. You are me." I stood there, frozen, staring at the words. My own reflection staring back, framed by her handwriting. My hand started shaking. That was when it hit me. This wasn't just about space. This wasn't just a grifter taking advantage of generosity. This was an obsession. Fallon didn't want to live in my apartment. She wanted my life. The last few weeks came rushing back in flashes: the way she wore my clothes, mimicked my speech, even borrowed my glasses and posted selfies like they were hers. The way she'd told people she was me, almost. Or at least better suited to my world than I was. I felt sick. I didn't even unpack that night. I went straight to a friend's guest room and crashed on the couch, fully dressed. My lawyer told me we could pursue charges for property damage and hampered, but I was so emotionally depleted I told him to hold off. I didn't want a legal battle. I wanted distance. For the next week, I stayed out of the apartment, only returning with a friend during daylight hours to clean. We threw out 2 full contractor bags of ruined clothing and home goods. We scrubbed the floors, aired the place out, had the locks changed again, and did a deep clean just to remove the energy of it all. Fallon didn't reach out. Not directly. But she did post on social media. I had her blocked, but my aunt forwarded screenshots from an account Fallon had made under a new name, Faye Aurora. She was posting videos claiming she'd survived a domestic hostage situation and escaped spiritual torment at the hands of a narcissistic sister. In one post, she said she had a pending lawsuit against a corrupt landlord and a female perpetrator. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because that kind of lie, that kind of deranged narrative spinning, it's the only way she knows how to exist. Fallon's survival mechanism has always been storytelling, not the kind that connects people, but the kind that erases accountability. A few weeks after she was gone, I got a knock at the door from a process server. Fallon had filed a small claim suit. She was accusing me of property theft and wrongful eviction, saying she left behind essential personal items and suffered emotional and professional trauma. My attorney shut it down in under 2 weeks. I had documentation. Photos. logs, witness statements, screenshots of her trying to sublet the apartment. Even her public Facebook posts claiming she was the new leaseholder. It was a textbook example of someone trying to weaponize legal systems they barely understood. But still, the paperwork, the stress, the nerve, it chipped away at me. This wasn't over. Not emotionally. Not psychologically. I was left with a home that no longer felt like mine, a fragile sense of trust, and a new understanding that blood doesn't guarantee respect or boundaries. I didn't tell my parents what happened. They're both gone now. And truthfully, I'm grateful they didn't have to see what Fallon became. But part of me wonders, was this inevitable? Had she been this way all along, and I just hadn't let myself believe it? Would you like me to continue into the final section, where she rebuilds, heals, and makes peace with the fallout, but not with Fallon? I didn't respond to Fallon's lawsuit beyond what was required. No statements. No retaliation. I let my lawyer and the facts speak for themselves. But I started quietly building something else, a long overdue line of protection between her and every part of my life. The court dismissed her claim, citing lack of evidence and intent to hamper. But I wanted more than a piece of paper. I wanted closure. Not just for myself, but for the years I had bent, softened, and silenced myself to keep peace with someone who would burn my life down and call it cleansing. So, I decided to tell the truth. Publicly. Not in a dramatic call-out way, but with facts, receipts, and calm transparency. I wrote a long post on my private Facebook, addressed to friends and family who had seen Fallon's stories, and who had, some knowingly, some not, engaged with her lies. I didn't make it emotional. I listed the timeline. The false claims. The eviction. The restraining order. Social media fraud. The police involvement. The attempted sublet. The vandalism. I included photos and court documentation. I asked anyone who still felt inclined to support her to please do so privately and not through me. I finished with this: Fallon isn't someone I can safely have in my life. I will not respond to further questions about her. If you choose to believe her version of events, that is your right. But please keep me out of it. I am focused on healing, rebuilding my space, and reclaiming my peace. I don't want revenge. I want freedom. That post did something Fallon never expected: it took the air out of her narrative. The comments were overwhelming, supportive, validating, full of people I hadn't even realized had seen through her for years. My cousin Olivia wrote, "Ray, I remember the way Fallon manipulated Mom when she lived with us for 6 months. I always wanted to say something but didn't know how. I'm so sorry you went through this." An old neighbor added, "Fallon told me once that your apartment was hers and you were moving because you couldn't handle city life." I honestly believed her. I'm sorry. I didn't need anyone to pick a side. But people did. Quietly, firmly, in the way that matters, through silence. Fallon didn't just lose her battle in court, she lost her grip on the audience she'd always depended on. She posted a few unhinged videos after that, ranting about betrayal, soul disconnection, and the energetic theft of her divine feminine power. I didn't respond. Neither did anyone else. Her likes dried up. Her comments vanished. She stopped tagging me, stopped mentioning my name. And then, slowly, she disappeared from my radar. I later heard from someone that she tried moving to Detroit, then Minneapolis, floating between yoga studios and intuitive coaching collectives. But no one lets Fallon stay long once they realize the story changes depending on what she needs. And when the story dries up, so does the sympathy. As for me, I made changes. I kept the apartment. Repainted. Got a new couch. New rugs. Even swapped out all the linens and towels because I didn't want a single fiber in that place to still carry her imprint. I went through every drawer, every cabinet, and reclaimed them. I started a side blog, anonymous, just writing about personal boundaries, about family betrayal, about reclaiming space, physical and emotional. It wasn't revenge. It was catharsis. People started messaging me. Women who'd let a sibling move in and ended up legally entangled. People who felt crazy for being hurt by someone they were supposed to love unconditionally. I wasn't alone. That was the most powerful part. The best revenge? It wasn't Fallon being evicted. It wasn't the court dismissing her claims. It wasn't even the restraining order. It was the way my life slowly, steadily returned to mine. The way I woke up and drank coffee in silence again. How I could sit on my balcony and read, barefoot, in the sunlight, with no one blaring chakra music or burning sage they didn't understand. The way my mail came with just my name on it. The way my job, my friends, and even my own reflection started to feel like mine again. She took a shot at my life and missed. That's her punishment. And me? I've never lived more peacefully. Sometimes the greatest act of revenge is refusing to carry someone's story anymore. Letting them drop into the silence they created, while you, quietly, powerfully, build something solid in their absence. Fallon wanted my apartment. My life. My identity. All she got was blocked. And me? I got everything back.